I got to email my finance guy and tell him that we should send more money every month. Smash or pass. Leveraging debt to build a business.
Pass.
Making coffee at home to save money.
Smash.
Renting instead of buying.
Can I choose both? You don't have to love stocks and love finance in order to be a really good investor. I think by not believing that wealth is actually part of a spiritual journey, then all you're doing is working against yourself.
You're not going to find a room of billionaires going, I love money, I love money, I love money.
People are so worried about looking good. That's what's actually costing them their own freedom.
What do you believe holds most women back from investing?
You're either going to be expanding money or you're going to be going out and earning money. I would suggest you do both.
I'm not going to lie. There's a couple of things that feel really intimidating to me in life, and one of them is welcome to the show, Elizabeth. I'm so excited that you're here. Before we hit record, we just realized that we were like passing ships in the night, and I literally just missed you the other day when you were here in Fort Lauderdale. So I'm sad that we didn't get to record in person, but I'm so excited that you're finally here on the show. I have so many things that I want to ask you. Money is such a hot topic with my audience, and I know there's so many women listening that want to build real wealth for themselves and their families. So I can't wait to share your expertise with them. Welcome to Makeshift Happen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, it's funny how, we weren't able to coordinate that. But at the same time, I guess we have to just say it's meant to be. And I think we will meet in person. I do have that feeling at some point.
Totally. I think we will. Okay, so let's get into some of the money stuff. One thing that I wanted to ask you first was this kind of philosophy that at least I hold myself. I won't assume that you will, but I think it's a fair bet. But I really believe that getting wealthy is one of the most spiritual things that you can do. And because you are known as the spiritual investor, I'd love to know your take on that kind of intersection between spirituality and wealth, because obviously historically these two things have kind of been viewed as opposites or counterintuitive. There's a lot of spiritual people that still have hangups around money or feel that charging a lot of money is not in alignment with the highest spiritual realm. So I'm curious what your beliefs are on the intersection of spirituality and wealth.
Well, I now realize this is why we came together, because I think the exact same thing. And you're right, it is a little bit over the edge. And it's over the edge simply because we've been conditioned to believe that there's something like it should be separate, right? Like we don't think that organic food, that's abundance, right? Walking in nature, that's abundance. Well, money is energy and that's abundance, right? But we don't allow ourselves to bring it in. And so I do think that wealth is a spiritual journey. I actually think that if you want to be bigger in the world, it is also a responsibility. I mean, we came here to this world to play. We came here to create. And so we can't sit here and say, oh, I'm not going to use one of the tools, right? We have to have a roof over our head. We want to send our kids to school. We want to do all of these things. So it's like, I think by not believing that wealth is actually part of a spiritual journey, then all you're doing is working against yourself. So it's like, how can you open up to it? And I think one of the ways that you can open up to it is if you look at your own expansion. And I know that people listening to this podcast specifically are at a certain point in their spiritual journey, right? Maybe above and beyond kind of like the normal that you would see on the street, right? So, and they are expanding into who they are and stepping out more into the world. So if you think about it, it doesn't make sense that you would just like take one type of energy, money, and then just leave that in the shadow over here. Just leave that behind. Like that's one thing that we don't get to do. Like energy is going to move through us. And so it's like, it's really just up to us to enhance and open our ability to receive, which you talk a lot about in terms of, I love the way that you frame up, like, stop being boring, like stop, don't be boring with your content and stuff like that. Like bring alive who you are. Well, you can do the exact same thing with your money and have it part of your spiritual journey. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you talk about this idea of like being an expander of wealth. And I feel like that's kind of what you're speaking to there is like bringing in the play, bringing in the fun, but also you mentioned money being a tool and that it is quite silly to come to earth and be like, oh no, that tool is bad. I'm not going to touch that tool or use it. But like how we can actually tap into our energy to be more playful, to have more fun, to become in alignment with, this holy resource, as I like to call it,
Mm-hmm.
of money. So a lot of that has to do with like energetics and frequency, right? At least this part that we're talking about now. And of course we'll get into like the tactical sides of actually investing in those things. But I love that you bring both sides of the coin because I'm very much like that myself in my work. I always say like my work is the intersection of where strategy meets spirituality. I really believe that when you can fuse like the yin and the yang and kind of have both the feminine and the masculine sides of the universe as a whole, like you start to live and move in harmony with how we're really meant to be. And so I think a lot of your work is this sort of harmonious, balanced approach to money because it's not just, the stocks and investing, but it's also that energetic and spiritual side of it. So that's why I love like your take and what you do so much. So I'm curious with the energy of money specifically, have you always had this good relationship with money, or were there specific things that you had to do to bring your energy alive, to become an expander of money, to be more in alignment with it?
Mm. Actually, I have. I remember even I have had a good relationship with money, my entire life. I remember as a child thinking, why are they treating money any way different than anything else? Like money is just kind of like it's kind of just a conversation. It's kind of just something that comes in and out of your life. As I became an adult, I was able to kind of see that money is just ones and zeros. And it's literally all it is. And so the less we make meaning out of money, the more we get to play, because play is something that comes into the space of who we are. And so when we're making meaning out of money, we're blocking all of that. So it's like be in lack and scarcity at the same time, and you can't focus on the lack and scarcity of money. So what you have to do is you have to step back from money and just not make meaning out of it. I have always naturally had a good flow with money, I will say. Not to say that I don't have money stuff too. I do because I have my edges. And we're always going to have that. Like I think it's this illusion that, you get to a certain point and then you never stress about money or you never worry about money or you have no money problems. Like that's not true at all. Your relationship is just gonna be constantly changing over time with it. But the depersonalization of money, I think, is probably one of the most important things that people can do, because if you depersonalize it, then you can't make it mean that you're greedy and evil and all the weird things that people do.
Or that you're not good enough or whatever if you don't have enough money yet. I think that's so interesting, the way that you phrase that, like to depersonalize money, to make it less personal, to neutralize it, right? To take the meaning out of it. It reminds me of like how people talk about if you're the type of person that really feeds into the external validation of having people clap for you or approve of you or give you these good opinions, then inevitably the flip side of that coin, when you start getting hate comments or people disagreeing with you, or you've, poked the wrong button online, like that really can destroy that type of person. Because when you put so much importance on the positive of it, then the negative also holds equal importance just on the opposite end of the scale. And so I'm kind of seeing how that is exactly what you're speaking to here with money, of like, if you believe that it's this, high and mighty thing that makes people greedy, then you're also probably going to feel that like intense scarcity when it's not there, and the intense desire and like need for it when it is coming in. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we can like neutralize it a little bit more and just view it as a tool, we can stop creating so many meanings around it that then influence our behavior with money. Because I think that was, one of the things that really changed my trajectory in life with money, business, success in general, was this realization that how I was thinking and behaving around money was totally influencing my ability to open up and receive more of it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, how have you kind of seen that show up for people in terms of them blocking their own receivership?
Well, it really comes down to for a lot of people, and this was myself too. This is like when I look back on, even just, running the spiritual investor, I didn't make much money the first couple of years. So I've been running this for 7 years and really didn't make a lot of money. And I had to look at myself and go, how come, because I worked, I was a financial trader. I worked on a trading floor for over a decade and I made lots of money. And I'm like, wait, I know how to make money. I have a good relationship with money. What's wrong here? And it was really, I was hiding. It was lack of transparency. It was like I was fine getting on a video and talking about something, but I didn't realize that I was trying to like kind of like formulate it like what people needed to hear in a certain way. And then I was like going through some business training and I was trying to like put it into a template and blah blah blah. And I think it's actually that people just are so worried about looking good that that's what's actually costing them their own freedom. Because people don't necessarily want money, they want the freedom that money brings them, right? Their own um like desire to look good or not look bad is costing them everything when it comes to their own security and stability, but they can't actually make that connection.
Even like as simple as if you are starting a business, your need to look good or not look bad could be holding you back from getting resourceful and asking
Totally.
for help finding the money that you need to invest, to upskill, to learn the skills, to make more money or advance your business. Or it could be stopping you from actually promoting yourself enough or talking about your offers or sharing your prices. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so true how so much of what blocks us is that need to look good
Mm-hmm.
or the need to just not look bad, to not people don't want to feel cringy. People don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to say, hey, this is the thing that I'm doing. This is what I'm starting, or this
Yeah.
is what I'm really good at. I can totally help you with this. They don't want to seem like a know-it-all. They don't want to seem like
Mm-hmm.
they're an expert when, oh, maybe people don't think that I'm good enough to be the expert. And all of that is blocking those pathways for money to come in.
You're exactly right. That's a big one. I would say, just like adding to that, if this is helpful for anyone, is that what I see is that people are trying so badly to hold on to their old life. And so what they want is they want all of this money, but they want it to fit into, oh, I want to spend all this time with the kids, or I want to travel, or I don't want to work on a Saturday, or I don't want to, like, I get all of that, right? There's nothing wrong with that, and you can create that for sure. But there's a difference in upholding something that doesn't work and letting it go and creating it from new. Are you creating it from the space of on the shoulders of building wealth and expanding money? Or are you creating it on the old paradigm of I only want to work 4 hours a week? It's a really different
Boom.
conversation.
I love the honesty in that too, because I think, yeah, like we all talk about wanting freedom. Like you said, the only reason we want anything in life is because we think it's going to give us a certain feeling. And a lot of times the feeling that we're desiring when it comes to having more money is more spaciousness, more freedom, more possibility, more options, more choice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's so interesting that we try to use the past to inform how we're going to create something that we've never had.
Mm-hmm.
Like taking the structures and the belief systems and the time constraints and the way that we've always done things in the past, and then trying to shove this giant, new, beautiful, expansive, freedom filled future into this like old box. It's kind of like that cliche saying that's like your new life is going to cost you your old one. And so I think, yes, there is a version that we can create of our lives where maybe you do work 4 hours, maybe you don't work on Saturdays. But I really, really hold the belief that in order to get to that, there are certain building blocks. And along that pathway, there will likely be some sacrifices that are required for you to shed the old identity, to shed the old way of doing things, to shed pieces of your own old life and maybe sacrifice, some of that in a way. You can't just be who you are today and then create a future that current you has no business being a part of.
Yes, exactly. And even this thing about sacrifice, like this, I'm so glad you brought this up because even the element of sacrifice is actually part of the past, because if you think about like the things that you've created in the past, you don't see the sacrifice. So the sacrifice is actually an illusion as well. It is actually a bringing forward of the past, because when we have the $1 million business, we don't look back and go, oh, damn, I shouldn't have worked so many hours that week. Same thing with investing. No one who has an investing account right now that started it even 6 months or a year ago, or especially 10 years ago, says, oh shit, why did I get that extra $1,000 a month and go in there? So I think what we have to do is we have to actually step outside of time. The moment we step outside of time, we step outside of the matrix. The way that you step outside of time is you stop saying, is it a sacrifice? Is it not? No, it's just what is. It is just, it's so simple, actually. Do I want the $1 million? Yes. Okay. Well, instead of putting my energetic currency on, I only want to work 4 hours a week, or I'm going to not be a good mom, or I need to cook 3 meals a day, or whatever the hell you're doing, right? Your value system, which we feel so rosy and justified about, is actually what's killing everything that you want. But because it's our value system and we feel so good about it, because value system and conditioning, there's a very, very fine line there, value system, conditioning, trauma, they're really effectively, if you want to do tit for tat, kind of all the same thing. And so what we do is we go, I want to uphold my value system. My energetic currency gets spent there, because that's all we're doing is trading energetic currency for whatever energy, whatever abundance we want. When you do that, it's like you have to let it all go. And I have this thing, I call it breaking the structure, and I sort of take people through it. It's like breaking the structure. You can actually voluntarily erase the life that you have now in a way that, yeah, it does take the brave version of you. But what have you been working for? Why have you been doing all this spiritual work? It's almost like, are you ready? Yes. Like, you're ready to be anointed with this, right? So you literally take that out, and you don't give yourself the, oh, I want to keep this piece and this piece, because you don't know what is locking up your energy. You can't see that. We don't have access to that, right? It's just, there's a lot of split energy going on in our lives. We're leaking energy everywhere, right? And we're justifying it. You get rid of all of that. You solely connect with, I want the $1 million. And then everything is born energetically as a function of that, to the point where you become more curiously, obsessively addicted to meeting that version of you who is like the sculptor. Like, that's their passion. That is it. You become so curious about that the other stuff doesn't matter anymore. And meeting that version of you becomes your goal, not the money. And you'll have it. You'll have it fast. It will come to you so quickly, your head will spin. And one of the reasons is because when you do that, everyone around you, whether it's your family, your audience, your loved ones, whatever, they start to feel that. And we think that we're doing this alone, but we're not. We're doing this as part of the collective consciousness. And so they begin to also up level and emit your story and your vibration. And they're the ones that are like, oh, wait, by the way, Sarah's doing this, right? But you not being that, because you have so much split energy and you're trying to uphold your value system, and you're trying to like have this slice where you're just being that. It doesn't work like that anymore, because we're so in tune with energy. And this is a good thing if you really know how to wield this sword.
This kind of feels like, I remember the first time I read the book, The Power of Now.
Such a
And
good book.
it feels like one of those moments where you're just being like spiritually slayed, and you're like, it feels like there's like numbers floating all around your head,
Yeah.
and you're like, whoa, like thoughts aren't even real. Like,
Yes.
I'm not even the person who's in my head. What is happening?
Yes.
So I love this so much. I feel like it's like cracking things open. I remember hearing you say, I think you were talking about like how getting out of the feeling of lack. And in order to do that, you have to like erase your past. Like, because if you don't have that construct of like who you've been, the value systems that you're trying to uphold, all those little fragmented pieces of yourself that you're trying to hang on to while moving into a new, wealthier future, then it wouldn't be holding you back, right? But let's say for the woman who's listening to this and is
Mm-hmm.
like, this is blowing my mind, love this conceptually. However, how do I get out of lack when I don't see the money in my bank account that I want to be there? What are some kind of practical ways that I can shift my focus so that I actually do feel like I'm in the frequency of abundance, even if financial abundance isn't fully there yet?
Mm-hmm. This is great. I love this. Okay, well, I think that we have to, and I'll go back to when you said like the thoughts are like circling around and like it's really that they're just thoughts, right? Okay, so building on that, if it's just a thought, then you also get to choose your own truth. And that's part of what's going on is that we're letting everybody else choose our truth. And you see that with even just the stuff that's going on. Like it's kind of heavy right now politically, right? Like all the stuff is going on. Like what's happening is the attention is being stolen and a new version of truth is being delivered. Well, it is the time now for us to say, no, I choose my truth. So in that example, you said they have the bank account and they're not seeing the money in there that they want, but they're seeing money in there. There's money in there. And there is a point of celebration of the money in there. And there is a way to look through at, well, how did that money get in there? Wow. Well, I didn't have that money in that way 3 months ago. Well, I want to discover more about that version of me who has that money because I know that the version of me that sees the lack is actually not, and this is going to get a little bit crazy, but that actually is not a version. That's only a shadow because you are only source. And so that version of you who sees lack doesn't exist. The version of you who is source is missing. And so once you raise your standard to only connect with the version of you who is source, which you can tell you're doing that because you have a different feeling, then you will no longer connect with the version of you who is lack. And also this will change your entire world because when lack comes at you, it won't penetrate. What you'll be able to do is you'll be able to address it and sort of Mother Teresa the world with, well, wait, let me help you see this other direction, right? And so I do this in my own life, by the way. I'm not saying anything here that I don't do constantly. I just have a pretty, I'll say, diligent practice around it. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's money, anything, my standards are constantly being raised in terms of, no, I decide my truth. No one else does. The moment that I decide my truth, something magical happens, and that is I have a choice. If I see lack, then I need something. And when I need something, I'm at the mercy of the entanglement of the world. I no longer have the choice. When I see my truth, then what happens is infinite potential opens up and I am only looking at infinite potential. I don't know if this makes sense or not.
It does.
Okay.
It reminds me of my entire journey of like personal development and
Yes.
shifting the
Yes.
way that I saw possibility and opportunity. And just from like a scientific perspective, what you're saying is like when you start to change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at change, right? Like when we rewire the reticular activating system in our brain to see the opportunity, to look at the gratitude for the money that's in the account, to inquire, well, how did I get that? How have I improved? I used to make less and now I'm making more. What did I have to do that? Let's like work backwards from there. What can I do now? Like you're looking for opportunity, you're looking for possibility. And so it doesn't mean this negation of the fact that the money that's in your bank account is the money that's in your bank account, but it's a different perspective and a different way to approach what you're going to do next and who you're deciding to be in that moment. Because you can decide to lean into that shadow, as you were talking about, of the version of you that sees lack, that feels disappointed, and once you entertain one of those thoughts, then that spurs another thought. It's like when someone says red, what do you think of? And it's the word association. That also happens with thoughts, I believe. When a negative thought comes to visit you and you decide, I'm going to take this on and I'm going to entertain this thought. I'm going to integrate it into my world purview right now, and I'm going to entertain what this thought is telling me, then that thought is going to spur another thought and another thought and another thought. And before you know it, you're deep in that rabbit hole of feeling like everything's broken, nothing's working. How am I going to get out of this? I'm the victim. This is always how my life goes. Fuck this. I'm I'm never going to get where I'm trying to go. Everyone else is a liar. Like, you could get so deep. And so I think the way that we can protect ourselves is, like you were saying, being very conscious of choosing our truth. So for me, in that moment, it looks like when those thoughts come to visit, immediately saying, like, I'm not interested in this visit. You're going to have to find some other vessel in order to like come through into the physical realm of the world, because I ain't the one. I'm not the one. I'm not going to allow you to like manifest through me. So that thought to me is rejected, swiped aside. I leave it alone. I choose another one. So I choose my truth in that moment. And if you choose a more empowering truth in that moment, now that new, more empowering thought is likely going to spur another potentially more empowering thought, another thought that makes you look at potential, possibility, opportunity, the availability of options. What can I do instead of what is wrong? It's like, well, what is right? There may be things wrong, but there's also things right. It's like the difference between always thinking about, what if things go badly? And like, what if has always had two sides, but we just focus on the one more intensely. But there's always the side that's like, and what if it goes well? And what if it goes amazing? And what if it turns out better than we could have ever thought? So totally making sense to me. I'm clocking it. I hope the audience
Yay.
is as well.
Yay. Yes.
So good.
Yes, that's it.
So
You
good.
totally hit it on the head. You totally hit it on the And sometimes if a thought comes in and I do feel an entanglement, because I will, like, I get it, that sometimes if such, especially like if someone says something to you that you're like, whoa, that kind of hurts you or hits you or whatever, what I do, and this has been helpful, is that if I can't totally get on board with, I'm going to stop that and it's my truth, what I'll do is I'll go, okay, I'll just look at impermanence. That person said that, they might feel that, but they might not feel that in an hour. They might not feel that tomorrow. And whatever they're feeling is what they're feeling, which has nothing to do with me because I'm not their feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways as you get into this, there are ways that you're going to develop, because you're your best teacher, that you're going to be able to sort of continue this practice on.
So good. Okay, we have to talk about investing.
Mm-hmm.
So we all know that the earlier we invest, the better off we'll be. And yet we still don't do it. So from your perspective of having been in this work for a long time, what do you believe holds most women back from investing? Just kind of point blank.
Oh, it's easy because we ask people the question when they come into the group. It's they don't know enough. That's typically what
That's
holds.
what they believe.
Yes, that's what they believe. They believe that they don't know enough. A lot of women also believe that they're going to make a mistake. And so they don't want to, like, it's they don't want to suffer through that. It's like a potential loss that they're avoiding. And so it's easier for them to just not do it. Then that sort of leads into, you mentioned the rabbit hole, the thought, because then that goes down into people like, well, is now the right time? Which is funny because when the market goes down, everyone's like, oh, see, I shouldn't have invested, right? When that's actually the best time to invest. And then the market goes up and it's like, oh, wait, I'm too late. And I'm like, oh my God. So
Right.
it's like, I go through this all the time. It's like seeing people on both sides of it. Really the best time to invest is yesterday, and the second best time is today. That's what Warren Buffett says. So I think I'd probably just take that.
Yeah, so good. Okay, to give people some hope and
Yeah.
like some of this, vision of like the wins and like what this could really turn into in their life, can you share a little bit of how investing changed your life and the lives of your clients, like financially or otherwise, like learning this information and doing this, like how has it changed?
Well, investing, and this is a great question too, because I think sometimes it's helpful to sort of future orient people in that. So we're taking them out of like, okay, investing means I have to do something now that maybe I haven't done and it's scary, blah, blah, blah. Well, if we look at like the future orientation of you, how you're going to feel after you have invested is what it feels like is it feels like you have a really solid, reliable support system. So when you have an investing account, you're able to sort of look at the world through a different lens. You're able to sort of, whether you're reading the news, whether you're having a conversation with someone, and things happen in your life too, where you might need an extra $10,000 here or there, right? Like, and that doesn't mean you take it out of the investing account, but there's like a comfort and an ease that comes from having an investing account. And if I could wave a magic wand, I would have everyone feel that, because then they would know that it's not just something that they need to do. They would know that that's actually part of their own bigger self-expression in the world, because you want support. Some people look through support through relationships. Some people look for support through validation, as you said, right? All of that is just like, it's sort of like that's the fictitious version. If you actually start expanding money so that money is actually working for you, which that's what wealthy people do. Most wealthy people have between 8 and 10 different wealth channels. If you start allowing money to work for you, you will just need so much less from the world.
Mm. It's like a sense of it's like daddy energy. It's
Totally.
like feeling the
Totally.
safety of like
Yes.
being provided and
Yes.
provided for and like protected by your own money. It's
Yes.
very cool. It's very cool. So let's say I'm in my mid 20s to early 30s,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I'm a woman and I haven't invested much, maybe like nothing at all outside of my 401k that my employer provides for me. Where do I start? Like just basic. What are some of the most important things to know?
I would say open a personal brokerage account. So that's an account where it's like after tax money. So the money's just coming from your personal account, just going straight in there. It's really easy to do. That way you can take the money out if you want to, or you can put, it's like there's no restrictions on how much you can put in. There's also no restrictions on age when you can take the money out. So I would definitely say have that. And then I would say get into a routine with decide like a certain amount of money that's almost like it's easy to do. That could be $200 a month. That could be $2,000 a month, whatever it is. That's kind of easy to do. And then what I would do is I would say, okay, every month I'm going to that will be just automatic. So I would set that up, just straight up automatic, go from your account to the investing account. And then every month I would say, can I do an extra little bit or whatever? So you have your put on top amount and you have your basic amount. Um, a lot of people out there really like just index funds and ETFs. And if you've never invested before, I think that's a great beginner place to start. You can just start with the S&P 500, and I would just look up some ETFs from that. Also, I think, we are starting to see a little bit more of an opportunity. I know I just invested in some European ETFs. Some of those even pay dividends, which a dividend basically is money that you're getting deposited back into your account. Typically, it's quarterly. And so it doesn't matter what the stock price is doing or whatever, you're still earning money for that. You can get paid right now. Like you can invest in some of these ETFs or stocks, and you're still getting 3 to 5 to 8% or whatever deposited back. And you're really not doing anything. If the stock price goes on top of that, then that's even better. And so if you start looking at investing as kind of like you've built the fire, and all you need to do is go out there and just keep putting money on and putting money on and on. Once you sort of, I would say, graduate beyond like the ETFs and the index funds, you're going to want to go more into individual stocks, because those are kind of like the customization, right? That's like, that's like the clothes, or like, that's like the belt and the earrings, right? That like make you sort of like stand out and give you above average returns typically.
Elevates the whole outfit.
Elevates the whole thing. Plus it brings you energetically connected to it, right? Because you're going to have these companies that you're going to be like, wow, I own part of one of the most successful companies in the world. Once you start to see yourself as, I'm not only running my business, but all these other companies are working for me too, it's a state of being that is undeniable. actually. In just even in the spiritual investor club, it's like, there's probably like 80 stocks in there that we've just over time and we've just been buying into, buying into, buying into. And so, in some of these we started buying 3 years ago, to be able to see that our wealth has gone up as a function of Amazon making more money or Google or Berkshire Hathaway
Mhm.
or any of these. Again, it goes back to a sense of solidarity. And once you create a relationship based on, wait, this is working for me, not this is some scary black box, it's a game changer, total game changer.
I love what you said about this idea of once you get into kind of the customization side of choosing individual stocks, but more so really seeing yourself as a part owner of these
Yeah,
other companies. I think the biggest thing in that is like that's an identity shift.
totally.
It's like women who are building businesses and they don't really see themselves as a true entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a CEO. Like when you can kind of shift into that state of that identity, it accelerates something for you for sure. So I love that. I'm going to take that on because I've never thought of it in that way. I've never thought like I'm a part owner in like all these cool companies. So I really love that. And I was going to ask you about index funds because that was when I was trying to understand, you know, wealth and investing, that was always kind of the first piece of advice that I had heard. So I think I went to like Vanguard
Mm-hmm.
or something, and that was my first like account that I opened up. And I'm not gonna lie, like I still think that the idea of investing and like knowing and understanding the market feels like quite intimidating to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. There's a
Yeah.
couple of things that feel really intimidating to me in life. And one of them is understanding what the fuck the stock market or the economy is
Yeah.
doing. And
Yeah.
the other one is taxes.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Had I not, well, my mom was a financial advisor, and so I grew up around the language, but had I not gone through all the financial exams and worked on the trading floor and done all, I would feel the same way. And I guess I want people to understand that understanding the market and stocks, number one, it's not a function of like intelligence. It's actually not that difficult. So I don't want anybody to think that they are not smart enough or whatever. That's an illusion. The second thing is, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, is that you don't have to love stocks and love finance in order to be a really good investor. In fact, Warren Buffett is one of the greatest intuitive investors that has ever existed. That's what I teach is I teach how to read between the lines of the economy. So how do you understand the basic fundamentals, which are really actually interesting? It's quite fascinating if you can understand, like, we have a Fed meeting today to determine whether interest rates are going to go up or not. Okay, so it's quite fascinating if you can understand the relativity between that and then what's actually going to come out in the news tomorrow and how people are going to be talking about it. Because what it does is it gives you this really cool feeling of, like you're sitting at the dinner table with people and like you really understand intuitively like how the dynamics are going on. And when you can sort of approach it at that level, then you can learn just a few fundamental things that are actually more globally applicable than you would think. You don't actually need to be a financial wizard. And then what you can do is you can use your own intuition in terms of this. Like, it's like we're already interacting with a lot of these companies that we're investing in. Spotify, Adobe, Disney, all of these. Like, once you sort of see that, and it's really fun, the synchronicities when they start to come up too. And I see this with investors in the group. They're like, oh my God, my cousin mentioned that. Oh my God, the news article popped up and I, bought into that. And it doesn't take a lot of money either. It
Mm.
really doesn't. It just, do you want to get behind expanding money? Because you're either going to be expanding money or you're going to be going out and earning money. I would suggest you do both.
So to your point about it doesn't take a lot, can you speak to that? Because I think that is another thing that will likely hold a lot of women back is this idea that I'm not making enough money for it to make sense for me to delegate X amount of dollars per month to my investments. What would you say to that? Because I think I've heard people talk about this in the sense of like giving and charity, that if you feel like you can't give anything until you have more money, even when you're a millionaire, you probably won't give. And it's almost like this habit that you have to
Hmm.
build no matter what stage you're at. So I imagine that it's similar when it comes to investing, but I'd love to hear you speak to that and kind of busting that limiting belief that I need to have an excess or an overflow of disposable income in order for me to start investing.
Yeah, I love this. Thanks for asking this and also for bringing up, like, you're exactly right about if you're not giving and then you get a lot of money and it's a way of being, right? It's an identity thing. So, just kind of tying in some of the stuff that we talked about earlier about we choose our own truth and basically the past is what comes in and just takes it all away, right? So, I would say from a 3D perspective, you don't need a lot of money because there are a lot of really amazing stocks out there that are $12 to $17 that you could be investing in and be earning, I don't know, 5% dividend. So why wouldn't you do that kind of thing? Also, you can go out there even right now with where rates are, you could be parking money in a CD and getting 4 to 5%, right? So it's like none of this is difficult, right? So I would say that's from a 3D perspective. I would say from an energetic perspective, and this is where we get to choose our own truth. And, I'll invite people, if this feels right for you, this could actually change your entire life. Like if you wanted to shift your life right now in this moment, you actually could, if you want to choose this truth, which this truth is, how does it ever make sense that you need to make more money in order to learn to expand money? Wouldn't you want to expand money and then make more money and then expand money and then make more money? Like, aren't those two things a function of one another? And so if you're waiting to make more money in order to expand money, if you really, really were to drop your past, that would never make sense. Like if you hadn't learned that before, I couldn't sell that to you, but you sell it to yourself all day long. So if you
It's
want to
kind
take
of
that
like,
on, yeah.
I was just going to say, it's kind of like when, people avoid investing in the skills that are going to help them learn how to make more money with the excuse that they don't have the money to invest in the skills. And it's like, well, how are you
Correct.
going to make more money if you don't have the skills to make the money? And you keep saying that you can't get the skills because you don't have enough money. Like you just keep chasing your tail. And I think that's exactly what you're speaking to, is like
Yes.
you're saying that you can't afford to expand money because you don't have enough money. So shouldn't you learn how to expand money?
Well, exactly right. Exactly right. And it goes back to, again, what we talked about, that is do you see it as a responsibility? Do you see it as a responsibility that you should have the amount of money that would support everything in your life, that would actually be a sense of ease for you, that you could go out there and you could do more? Like, how, do you want to take that on? It's effectively a choice because whatever money you have coming into your life now is exactly where you are on your money frequency. You're already doing it perfect because it's perfectly lined up. It's just that the money you desire is on a different frequency. And so you have not yet accepted the responsibility to do the things that you should do in order to be on and to stay on that frequency. And it is nothing wrong with it, but I would say own it either way, because that's what people aren't doing. They're not owning the fact that their desires are on a different frequency. They're just like complaining about it, to be honest.
Mhm. 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 It's like the basic principle of manifestation that everyone who listens to the show will know. It's
Mm-hmm.
that step of actually adopting the identity of, acting as if they say, but like really embodying like the frequency of that future life, of that future version of you, of the wealthy woman that you're stepping into. You can't operate from the system that has gotten you to the reality that you have now and expect that that system is going to create a reality beyond your wildest dreams. Like
Mm-hmm.
something has to change. And so the way that you think, act, feel, how you show up, what you choose to prioritize, place importance on, what you believe, like all of that has to shift if you really want to step into that next level of your wealthiest self. Yeah. I've
Absolutely.
heard you I've heard you say something about, gosh, what was it? It was like that wealthy people, almost all wealthy people will tell you that a majority of their wealth comes down to just a handful of
Yep.
decisions. Um, so I'm curious, just kind of off the top of your head, what do you think are maybe like the top 3 to 5 decisions that someone could make when they're focused on building wealth?
Mm. Well, you know, I kind of say like if you're making if you've got 100 decisions that you've made, you really only need to knock it out of the park with 5 of them, and that over 90% of your wealth is going to come from those 5 decisions. I think for one thing that does is it allows people to kind of like, take the weight off yourself because you don't need to be right about everything. So that's the number one thing. But out of those are going to be kind of your big ticket moves, right? What people don't realize is that a lot of them are making those decisions now by not making decisions.
Mm.
So one of those would be, a lot of people don't really want to look at their bank account. They don't really want to look at what they're spending. They don't really want to they don't want to look at anything that makes them feel
Or
bad.
knowing what their debt looks like,
Or knowing
knowing the
what the
interest that's
debt or
accruing.
interest or anything like that. Yes, you're exactly right. So I would say that has to be the first thing, and you have to do it from a place of neutrality. You have to do it from a place of being in the now because it doesn't mean anything about you. Money is ones and zeros. So what if you made a decision last week that you wouldn't make today? Get over it. Get over it because not because I don't love you, it's because I want you to be wealthy, right? So just okay, sitting down, well, you know what? This is what I'm having for dinner. This is my dinner, this is what I'm doing, blah blah blah. From that level, right? Once you do that, what happens is a clarity comes in. And then what goes out of the room is this unknowing feeling, right? Because once you know it, especially as powerful as you are, you can handle anything once you know it, because then you can clearly see what's your next step of action. So I would say that's one thing.
Mm.
And then really looking at, you have a belief right now that whatever you have going on in your life, those are the ways that you make money. And it's very unlikely that you see outside of that. The people who are wealthy, typically, they're always looking for new streams of income to bring in. Oh, how can I leverage this over here? How can I do this over here? And they're not looking at it as a function of time. They're looking at it as a function of creativity. When you're in a room with really wealthy people, they're talking about money, but really they're talking about, is this interesting enough for me to put my attention on? The conversation changes. It's funny because if you're in a room for people who are not having so much money, there's more, actually more talk about money, because once you get to a certain level, you're not really thinking about money. You're thinking about all the creativity that goes in that gets you money, right? So I would say, the big decisions right now, though, in terms of investing and the things that I would be looking at as far as like big moves right now, I think that what we're being asked to do, if I'm like sort of stepping out as an observer, like looking at the overall landscape of what we have going on now economically and politically, I think that the writing on the wall right now is the word transfer keeps coming up to me. And what I mean by that is you have money coming in, and every dollar is a gift. And so you get to decide what you're going to do with that. The thing that people aren't doing is they're not deciding. They're just letting it go in, go out, blah, 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 right? They're asleep when it comes to their money. So I would say
Mm-hmm.
wake up when it comes to your money and actually step into the responsibility. You are deciding where every dollar goes, and stop thinking of it different from a dollar versus $1,000. It's just money. It's just ones and zeros, right? It's all worthy. So looking at it from that perspective, I think that we need to be looking at how can we transfer the money that is coming in into diversified assets, because I mean that's good to do anyways, but right now we've got a lot of volatility. We don't know what's going on. So the way to actually feel safe and protected and to get yourself to the next level is invest a percentage in stocks, invest a percentage in crypto, and actually start putting some money aside and looking at, can you pick up a piece of physical land or physical real estate, even if it's in like bumfucked whatever, Egypt or whatever, like something. What you want to do is you want to get away from what do I want to do? What does this mean about me? And you want to go into, I'm just going to invest in a lot of different channels because I don't really know right now. And the more diversified you are, the more financially free you are, because these assets operate in different ways depending on what's going on in the economy. Like interest rates can go up and one asset's going to do well and one is not. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like you might as well, go out there and have them all. I would say that's really the biggest thing right now. Getting people to prioritize that, though, is something different.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, just like anything, you can get into a comfort zone of how you invest. And what you're saying is to step outside of that and kind of
Totally
diversify into other realms. Maybe you're like, I got my index fund, I'm good to go. But it's like, okay. And what's the next thing? Like, let's, go beyond that. So that's even like challenging me, to like stretch. And also something that you said earlier of, every so often challenging yourself on that automatic amount of money that you have going towards your investments. I'm like, as you were talking, I was like, I got to email my finance guy and tell him that we should send more money every month.
Yes.
So it's that check-in of like, once it's a set and forget automated system, sometimes you could literally do that, set and forget, and then like never, recheck in and be like, oh, I've been sending the same amount of money every month for 2 years, but like my income has really grown. So like that makes no sense. Like let's put more in. So yeah, that's really kind of shown me a couple of areas where even myself, I can break through some of the discomfort zones and do something that's going to serve me ultimately.
It's self-love. Money is self-love.
Yeah. And you've talked about like this connection between like love and money, right? Which I've talked about this a lot. Even when you look at like astrology, they're ruled by the same planet, and energetically, it's a very similar experience. And you can sometimes even see people having similar patterns in their life when it comes to romantic relationships and the way that they kind of operate with money, but they are so deeply connected for sure.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I also want to say that like debt is money too. Debt is someone believed in you and said, here, you can have this money and you can go do something with it. It's just ones and zeros. And so I don't want people not expanding money just because they have debt. And I think I feel differently. I think most financial people would say, pay off all the debt and invest. But I know, I remember talking about this in the Spiritual Investor a couple years ago, and someone was like, should I pay off all the debt or, and then invest? And I was like, no, you got to do both. And what's interesting is she came to me 6 months later and she's like, oh my God, I just paid off all of my debt from my investing account and I still have an investing account. Thank God you told me that, right? So
Yeah.
I actually think that sometimes the financial world does people a disservice by saying you need to wait to expand. Do we ever need to wait to expand? I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of, I had quite a decent chunk of student loans after I graduated college. And, then I went to live in Spain and I was like not making any money while I was first there. And then I kind of was starting my business and I was in those early stages. And so I didn't have any, capacity to really pay down my student debt. And I remember really wanting to invest in mentorship and upskilling so that I could improve my business and make more money. And it's that choice that you're talking about, right? Of like, well, do I focus on getting my debt down to zero before I prioritize, like, I want to invest in myself, for this selfish reason of like, I have this business idea and I think it could be successful? Or do I like go all in on the business and hope that that can, allow me to generate more money to expand and pay down the debt kind of simultaneously? And I just think it would have been such a bad trade for me to go, yeah, I'm going to pay all of my debt down. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
like save and scrounge these like pennies that I
Mm-hmm.
have left over from my paycheck of being a broke English assistant in Spain and wait until the debt is paid down before I can create the resourcefulness or the courage to invest 5K, 10K, 15K in mentorship to actually learn the skills to amplify and expand money. And so I'm so grateful that I was like, fuck the debt. We'll leave it there for now.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be okay. I'm going to focus on this. And within a couple of years, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in my bank account. I was like, I could pay this debt off easy. Like,
Yes.
what? And then I could actually invest and expand more. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's, interesting that you brought that up, and I'm glad you did, because I know there's a lot of people that carry a lot of guilt
Mm-hmm.
around the debt that they hold. And something that really helped me, I can't remember who originally told me this, but I've said it many times because it stuck with me so much, was like finding gratitude for your debt and being really grateful for the things that it gave you, because money is always an exchange of value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's an energetic exchange of value that both parties have entered into an agreement over. It's like, if I give you these $5, you're going to give me that slice of pizza. And that slice of pizza is the energetic exchange. So you're never, when you're spending money, you're never losing money. You're gaining an equal value.
Yes.
The issue with people feeling like they're in lack all the time is when they're assigning a value to something and they don't believe that the money that they have to pay in order to exchange it for that is worth it, when they don't feel like that's an equal exchange. But in reality, like, if I'm going to pay $20,000 for mentorship and you're going to teach me how to improve my brand and my content and my business and grow and whatever, like, that's an equal energetic exchange for me, because I'm getting so much out of that. So I'm never losing money. I'm just gaining value. But this idea of looking at your debt that way and understanding that you received value for
Mm-hmm.
that money and having gratitude for it. And I was able to find so much gratitude for my student loan debt, even though as soon as I graduated school, I fucked off and went to Europe and got a random job so that I could follow, a guy who eventually became my fiance, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many things that going to school and having those experiences gave me, even though they might not be things that I needed. I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel this. Oh, I didn't need that degree because now I do something totally unrelated, or I have my own business. And I guess I could sit in that mopey puddle of like, oh, that was such a waste of money. However, I'm able to look at the gratitude for all the things that it did give me, the experiences, the worldview, the fact that my college experience, part of that was traveling to Spain, where I met my fiance, some of
Mm-hmm.
my best friends in the world, just so many things that I can be grateful for. And so finding gratitude for that debt that can kind of like smooth some of that guilt that you might feel. Because I think that's an energy leak that can like
Mm-hmm.
take over people's frequency when it comes to money, is this feeling of like, I'm a bad person or I'm bad with money.
Absolutely. And even saying that we're bad with money, like, that's ego. Even saying that I didn't need something in the past, that's ego. How do you know you didn't need it? You're who you are today. Do you not like who you are today? Like, all of these things, like, it's all just a freaking story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole story. It's the meaning that we make out of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to do something fun to close this episode. I want to play a game of smash or pass, which is basically I'll just shout something out and you tell me if you would smash, meaning like I'm into it, I believe it, yes, or if you would pass. So like, it's not my vibe. I disagree.
Okay.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. So the first one is renting instead of buying, which is a very hot topic with wealthy people saying that they would rather rent instead of buy homes, obviously.
Mm,
Would you smash or pass renting?
can I choose both, depending on the situation?
I love playing this game because everyone who comes on the show, and myself included, like, we're all way too like philosophical and intellectual to just like
I
black and
know.
white. Like,
I know. I know.
but it's kind of the fun of it.
I mean, if you're going to do something else with the money and you're not going to be dumping it into like redoing the plumbing in your primary home, then I would say, yeah, go for it. But if you're going to rent and then you're going to spend everything, then I would say no, then you're better off like locking yourself into a mortgage, and then at least you're building an asset. So
Yeah.
I think that it depends on the rest of your life.
Okay. Making coffee at home to save money.
Oh, I would say smash that.
Yes?
I
Oh
love
my God,
that.
I'm so pass.
Oh, you're so fast on that. Yeah. I will.
I
Okay.
mean,
So I don't like that. I'll say that whole like latte factor thing though. Like you're not going to become wealthy by making coffee at home. I
right.
just think that it's like, why wouldn't you? But you know, that's not. It's not going to make you a millionaire.
Yeah, totally. The $5 that you save is
Yeah.
not gonna make that much of a dent. Okay. I already know that you like index funds, so we'll skip that one. Crypto as the
Mm-hmm.
future of wealth.
Oh, I don't know that crypto is the future. I think crypto is part of the future. And I would say proceed because you don't want to be not in it. But I would say please do not bet the farm on it as well. Like diversify, go into different things because when the rug gets pulled out from crypto, and we see this, that is a dramatic drop. And if you're losing 40% of your wealth in like the period of like a week, that's not going to feel great for you.
No. Okay, what about leveraging debt to build a business?
Pass.
Mm. Keeping 6 months of expenses in cash.
I would say smash. Can do that.
Multiple streams of income over one high-paying job.
Oh, multiple streams of income. Yeah.
Smash, major
Smash. Yeah.
smash.
Yeah.
Journaling your money goals every morning.
Pass.
Mm. Spending before the money arrives to kind of stretch and expand your capacity or make an energetic leap, as they say.
I would say smash that if you're really going to take it on.
Checking your bank balance every day.
Oh, pass. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Money mantras and affirmations.
Smash if it's something like that is very different and unique. Pass if it's just like you're just literally like reiterating the same thing and becoming like a record player.
You're just like, I love money, like trying to convince
I
yourself
hate that. I
there's
hate
no
that.
feeling.
Yeah, I'm like I have not met a wealthy person that repeats mantras the same thing every day. Yet that happens to be like the number one thing that people think they should be doing.
Yeah, you're not going to find a room of billionaires going, I love money, I love money, I love money.
Or
It's kind of funny.
skipping like or making coffee at home, to be honest.
Totally, totally. That's so funny. Oh my God, this was so good, Elizabeth. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
on. Can you let everyone know where they can find you and connect with you? And if they're ready to learn all things investing, where they can work with you?
Yeah, so they can go to thespiritualinvestor.com and then you'll find all the stuff there. We have a $17 membership, which is, no brainer. Just, come into the club and have a lot of fun. And we give you some stock picks. There's a get started investing thing there too. So that's really fun for people, kind of take some, at the next level, all the way up to a mastermind. And then connect with me on Instagram. It's Elizabeth Ralph. I, do jump in there and do lives. You can learn a lot from the stories. And then the Spiritual Investor podcast. That's where there's no holding back on that. I just I kind of go to the ethers there. I really don't even think about what I'm going to say. Probably the same thing as you, Samantha. It's like, that's why I love your stuff. It's just like, it is so
Channeled.
Yeah, and
Authentic.
It's just so there. In fact, like I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I bet your mastermind is fabulous. Because if it's like you magnified, I'm like, wow, oh my God.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're so sweet. This was so much fun. We'll link everything in the show notes for you guys that you can connect with Elizabeth. Find her on Instagram. If you loved this episode, if you know another woman in your life who needs to get on the bandwagon with her investing and creating a wealthy future, copy the link, send it to a friend, sister, mom, someone that you thought of while you were listening to this, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.